Yeah, thank you. You can move to the next slide. Now, this is what I am going to speak about. This is the sequence of my presentation today. The first and foremost, I would like to highlight that senior citizens are a vulnerable segment from various issues like medical and psychosocial. They also have lower immunity compared to the general population, and now it is all playing around in the presence of corona pandemic. What are the health strategies that senior citizens should adopt or should be provided to keep their health intact, especially during the corona pandemic? The first is we have to ask them, and they should be able to care of four particular structures on the face: nose, oral cavity, throat, and eyes. I call them NOTE, note, because these are the avenues of path through which the virus or any germ enters the body, especially those germs and viruses which attack respiratory system. The second part will be dealt with regard to the diet and nutrition. This also plays an important role in boosting our immunity. Third is physical and mental exercises, particularly during the corona pandemic when they cannot go out, what kind of exercises they can undertake in indoor. Fourth is equally important is their psychosocial health and getting a good sleep. Many of the people are having anxiety, even to the extent of panic, and otherwise also elderly people, some of them, they have problem in getting good sleep, and sleep fulfillment is an important prerequisite for a good health and also for immunity. Then I would speak few words about the pollution and vaccination. What pollution, I would particularly talk about indoor pollution. About the outdoor pollution, everybody knows. And lastly, I would say something about what I call them as healthy aging commandments. So we begin with the next slide, please. So this presentation is actually not a medical doctor's prescription in a stricter sense. It is just for informational purposes collected from the various sources in order to share this information. Next slide, please. Now, these are the medical issues. This is not a complete list by any means, but this is just for people to remember that there are two kinds of medical issues. One is the well-known age-related diseases, and other are the symptoms due to normal aging even without the diseases. Although it is hard to find senior citizens without any disease, but if there are one, they can have symptoms of normal aging itself. And one has to distinguish what are the normal aging symptoms and what are the age-related diseases. But many of the people have got both together and they overlap each other. And I have tried to enlist them in alphabetical manner. Age-related diseases: Alzheimer's, stroke, cancer of various parts of the body, diabetes, hypertension, which in medical term we call essential high blood pressure, frailty, geriatric infections of various kinds like respiratory infections, urinary infections, stomach infections, and so on. And last is heart disease. There is no any particular order in which I have arranged. They are just alphabetically. In the normal aging, many people, even without disease, they can keep complaining of aches and pains. They have vision problem. They may have motility problem for the intestine, and they do not pass motion quite easily or at a particular time in the morning like a young person. Sometimes they are a victim of depression or some kind of a despair. They also get fatigued and exhausted earlier than any other person in the young age. They tend to be forgetful even without Alzheimer's disease. There's something called age-related forgetfulness. So that is quite common in elderly people. They sometimes have flatulence and gas in the stomach, for which they also seek the advice of a doctor. And of course, some people, when they become quite in advanced age, they have hearing problems. So these symptoms of normal aging are also important, which unfortunately the doctors are not able to appreciate. They also give the stress to the person. When the person goes to the doctor, and the doctor may say that There's nothing. It is just because of aging. It doesn't end there. The doctor has to see to it and has to provide the remedy for these things also. So these are the normal aging symptoms. Next slide, please. Now, compared to the medical issues that I just enumerated, which are quite visible because they give lot of discomfort to the patients often seek the medical help for that. There are psychosocial issues, which on the other hand are not so visible. The patients are not actually going to the doctor for these issues, but they keep suffering in silence. And these issues are also important to the person. Even the family members are not able to recognize them. And these also have again tried to arrange them in alphabetical manner. A is anxiety and ageism. Ageism is the discrimination against elderly by the society. And of course, you can add another third A, which is called aloofness. So that means social isolation. And these days, the social isolation paradigm is even more due to the corona pandemic. Second is boredom. Many elderly people are not able to while away their time, they feel bored. And of course, in old age, they are also subject to bereavement because their dear and near ones start leaving them at this stage of life. They have coping difficulty, many of them. And as I said earlier, they have depression and despair. They may have all kinds of emotional disorders sometimes, anger and mood disorders and so on. Their economic and societal status is falling. They also get disconnected with the generation, particularly in the computer age when the children and grandchildren are always busy with their telephones and they have no time to talk to their grandparents, and therefore the old age function of grandparents to tend to their grandchildren is lost to a large extent. And sometimes the situation is so hopeless they can even harm themselves in some way. And many of them have got financial insecurity. And those who are well off, they also worry about the investment they have done. They keep worrying in the old age what will happen to the investment and all kinds of assets that they have hoarded or accumulated during their lifetime. And of course, to some, joblessness is also a matter of concern. And I think a very important point I would like to stress here, that becoming irrelevant to the society in this age is a very depressing thing. So I think an elderly person from psychosocial point of view has to be kept engaged, socially interactive, and psychologically uplifted. Next slide, please. Now we come to the aspect of hygiene. As I earlier said, mouth, throat, nose, and eyes, note. And here, very elementary information that I'm providing, everybody knows. Dental care, I would only say that instead of brushing once, if people are not brushing twice, these days at least they should brush twice, toothbrushing twice. Dental flossing is important, particularly these days, because they should not allow any food particles or any foreign body to be stuck between the teeth and the gums. And they should do flossing daily or if possible twice daily, and let no food particles stay there, because this could become a focus of infection, and any focus of infection renders the hygiene, oral hygiene bad, which is a step to welcome germs and viruses from outside. Then it is also better, those who are not doing gargling, they should do gargling, especially during these times. And there are some good gargle solutions, and I would just name one or two. One is, of course, the Provident iodine, which is available in the market under brand names. There's one chlorhead. And gargle their mouth and throat for at least 30 seconds. There are studies available that this gargling with these antiseptic solutions prevents the entry of the virus and it also kills the virus. And 30-second gargling for this duration, it is claimed that it kills the virus to an extent of 99.9%. There are even studies that if you do it 3 times a day, it may kill 100% of virus. And certainly it will also therefore prevent the entry of virus. In addition to these solutions which are available in market, there are some cost-effective solutions also. If you do simple hot water gargling, this is only partially effective. Only 20% of viruses are killed by hot water gargling. Or From the Ayurvedic point of view, one can do the gargling with the turmeric solution also. I don't know to what extent it will kill the viruses, but this could also be useful. So that is about the gargling recommendation that I make. Next is drinking warm water. I think everybody knows that there are recommendations to this effect. It is better to keep drinking warm water during these days, particularly in the winter season and particularly during the corona pandemic, because this is going to be helpful. You could either have a plain warm drinking water, or you could boil the water with certain substances like coriander, cumin, or ginger. That means धनिया, जीरा या अदरक. इनके साथ you can boil the water and keep this water after boiling for drinking purposes. So that will also be helpful for corona pandemic especially. Then you also know steam inhalation. Plain steam inhalation is also good. And during it is not necessary that you should be having sore throat only, then only you do inhalation of steam. I think in the corona pandemic, if you want to be extra careful, you could have a habit of inhaling steam, either plain steam, or you can mix some Vicks, or there are household things like pudina. You can put pudina in the water and you can inhale that steam, or you can have eucalyptus oil, or I think in anybody's house there is ajwain also. You can put ajwain also. If you put ajwain and you can take that steam also, that is also claimed to be useful. To what extent, I cannot say. Then I think before I come to no tobacco, no smoking, I would say a word about nasal hygiene. For nasal hygiene, I would like to say that if you happen to go out into the city for some reason, and senior citizens these days they are not going out unless it is essential. But if they are going out, it is recommended that they apply in both the nostrils a little bit ghee or coconut oil before they go. And when they come back, they can they can clean their nose and they put again a little bit of ghee and or coconut oil. So that is a good step which has been recommended and advised. Now, last point is about no tobacco, no smoking. Of course, tobacco and smoking both are very bad. Otherwise, also for anyone, not just for senior citizens, for everyone, because these are responsible and contributor to a large number of diseases. But they also contribute to a poor oral hygiene, because this tobacco and smoking, they spoil our teeth, they spoil our gum, they lot of smoke going on, so it is certainly not good. And it is not just smoking cigarette, bidi or vaping, it is also about eating anything or chewing anything like tobacco, like gutka or pan parag with tobacco, zarda and all those kinds of things. So I think one should remain away from these. So I think this is all about the hygiene that I would like to say, particularly for senior citizens I'm talking at this time, and also particularly during the corona pandemic. But this is applicable to everyone otherwise also. Next slide, please. Now we move on to the next section, that is about the diet. Now, diet, everybody says that diet is very important, nutrition is very important, but what is that important diet and important nutrition? I have tried to put in one sentence. Firstly, I would strongly say that a healthy diet improves immunity. Everybody says that, and it is a fact, and it fights all kinds of infections, and it is also likely to fight to some extent corona pandemic. And the principle is neither eat more, overeating is not allowed, nor eat too less. Do not indulge in fasting these days. Have whole grains in your diet, have enough vegetables, fruits, and enough amounts of vitamins, minerals, fibers, antioxidants, and water. Water is also important. One should keep oneself well hydrated and avoid excess sugar, salts, and carbohydrates. And eat more is important. Of course, elderly people usually are not able to eat more, but I would still say that there is a proverb in English that the food that you leave on the table does more good to you than the food that you have eaten. So stick to that principle, and that is about in one sentence, about a healthy diet. Now I would go in little detail about the diet in my next slide. This is something more about the nutrition. The principles of a good nutrition are that you should have enough proteins. You should not have excess of carbohydrates. You should be consuming correct vegetable oils and fats. You should be having all necessary vitamins and minerals, and you should remain well hydrated. Here, I would like to point out that people, especially from a lower middle class background, who are not able to afford, and even sometimes people who are well off, but they do not have enough information about the correct nutrition, they indulge in taking more carbohydrates. This is a common thing. Carbohydrates are cheaper, they are more tasty, and one doesn't get tired by taking enough carbohydrates. One goes on eating it because it doesn't fulfill their satiety soon. So I think it is not uncommon to find any person, particularly young person, to eat number of chapatis more than what he had to eat, or more rice, or they're taking sometimes bread, and they take often lot of sugary substances, starchy foods. Daily they are taking aloo ki sabji, potatoes and all that. So one should try to bring it down. I mean, without carbohydrates, you also cannot do it. You have to take carbohydrates, but with the help of dietitian or with the help of the ancestral wisdom, one should take adequate amount, but not excess carbohydrate. What is not being taken in enough or adequate quantities by the population, particularly by the lower middle class population, is the protein. Proteins, the reason for not taking enough proteins are two. One is that proteins are little more expensive. And number two, when you take proteins, you generally do not relish them. So you don't eat them in an adequately large amount. So this is the second reason why they are not taking enough proteins. And the proteins are contained in milk, cheese, pulses and legumes, and in certainly non-vegetarian food. There are plenty of there, but everybody is not non-vegetarian. So I am talking of vegetarian people. So how they can take? So these are the substances, and soya also has protein. Now whey is a liquid which is obtained after acidifying the milk with something like lemon and making paneer out of it. So whatever liquid comes out is whey. Whey is a very good source of protein. Whey is very rich in amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks for the protein. So if you have that whey, you can use that whey either by directly drinking the fluid, or you can put it in something like आटा. When you are गूंद रहे हैं आप उसमें मिला दीजिए, आपको पहुंच जाएगा. And whey has got amino acids which are easily bioavailable. They are easily digestible. Unlike the whole protein. Even if you want to take paneer, you cannot take paneer beyond a certain amount. And paneer also has got some fat. Paneer is not simply protein. It has casein, but it also has fat. But whey does not have fat. Whey protein is actually amino acids, which are, as I said, which are the building block for protein. And you might have heard that the people who are building their body, who are building their muscles, the athletes, they take whey proteins. Whey proteins are available in the form of powder, in tinned preparations or in packed preparations. And this whey protein is made out of drying of that whey liquid. So protein intake is important. That is what all the message I want to give you. Then vegetable oils and fats. I think the best advice about the oils is that you keep combining the oils. Do not stick to one oil throughout your life. That is the best thing that the doctors are advising these days. But the oils that you should prefer is mustard oil. Cost effective, not very expensive compared to many other oils. Or olive oil. Olive oil is little costlier. Mustard oil has got a lot of unsaturated fatty acids, particularly the PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Olive oil has also unsaturated fat. This is good, but it is costly. Groundnut oil has got also these unsaturated fats, but there is an issue about the smell. Many people don't like it. Sunflower oil can also be taken. And there are other oils also, but I'm not going to name all the oils. But I would just say that palm oil has got more of saturated fats, so therefore not very good. Coconut oil also has got more of saturated fat, therefore they are not very good. But they are taken in certain special circumstances, of course, but routinely they are not to be taken. Now, the next thing I was talking about, vitamins and minerals. Vitamins and minerals are very important because they are the sources. Some of them are antioxidants. They are also the sources of uh, a good healthy diet. They are a content of good healthy diet, and they have some special benefits. And without vitamins, the immunity will not be to the extent that you desire. There are many kinds of vitamins, but I have named mainly these days. I have named 6 vitamins: vitamin B complex, vitamin C, vitamin A, D, E, and K. And out of all this, if you shrink them further, I would especially give importance to vitamin C these days, vitamin D, and vitamin E. And with regard to the minerals, both the major minerals or the trace minerals, calcium, sodium, potassium, zinc, iron, selenium, and chromium. And please remember, these days doctors are also advising zinc as a special supplement, but others are also important. With regard to the hydration, you have to have enough water for drinking, and senior citizens often do not have adequate thirst and they neglect taking water. So they have to be reminded, or they have to, by themselves, they should keep taking water even if they do not have thirst. So hydration is important, and they also can take a lot of other fluids. For example, herbal tea. Herbal tea can be prepared with either tulsi or dalchini or black pepper and all that. And it is also a good idea to have a milk daily with little pinch of haldi, that is turmeric, and this is called golden milk. So all these principles of nutrition will go a long way in protecting the health. Otherwise, also long after corona is gone and during corona pandemic particularly. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, this is a little bit of expansion of what I talked about the vitamin and mineral. I have I have shown this as a separate transparency because there is little confusion about the vitamins and minerals that people have in their mind. I would just like to say that vitamin C, which is recommended these days very strongly, is contained in amla, that is Indian gooseberry, lemon, orange, shimla mirch, that is bell pepper, potato, broccoli, tomato, spinach, strawberries, sprouts, and so on. Vitamin D, our body can synthesize this vitamin through sunlight. But where is the sunlight? People are not exposed to sunlight these days, they remain indoors. So you have to either take cheese or you buy the milk which is fortified with vitamin D, and a little bit of vitamin D is contained in cereals and bread, but quite a bit in eggs and fish. Vitamin E is also important. It is contained fortunately in vegetable oils, green leafy vegetables, and in whole grains. And of course, nuts is a rich source of vitamin E. Zinc is contained in milk, cheese, whole grains, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, shellfish, and meat. And calcium and iron sources are also well known and shown here in this slide. But the good news is that if you take a healthy diet, it has all the required vitamins and minerals. You don't have to take from outside, but you have to take this as supplements only if you are diseased, if you have some disease or you have some deficiency. So I think during the corona pandemic, you are going to protect yourself. So not a bad idea. Even if you are having a healthy diet, it is better to take some supplements at least for some time during the corona pandemic. Now, if I have the next slide, please. Now we come to the third section, that is physical exercise. Physical exercise is a great immune booster. It certainly improves our immunity. And again, there is an English proverb: those who do not find time to do physical exercise, they will soon find time to illness. So physical exercise is the lifeline. Another person once said that if the physical exercise could be dispensed in the form of a tablet, it will be the most precious tablet, costing multi-dollars as a price. But so far there is no such tablet available. In short, physical exercise improves mobility, prevents falls and fractures in the elderly people. It has benefit for reducing or maintaining a normal body weight. It is good for well-being and life's longevity. It also protects against diseases of joints, diabetes, heart, cholesterol, and even cancer. And I will explain this in my next slide about further benefits and methods of physical exercises. Now, physical exercises can be done both indoor and outdoor depending on the situation that you are faced with or depending on the facility that you have. The first principle I would say that when you do walking or do any exercise in the morning, or these days in winter season, little later in the morning because morning is very cold to go outside. If you may be doing at home, that's okay. But if you do it in the morning, you are doing it with your whole body. You are fresh after you have got out from the sleep. But if you do it in the evening, you are doing only with the legs and your body is not that fresh in the evening. So have a habit of doing exercises in the morning or in the midday. That is better. But if you have no time, you can even do in evening, anytime. But this is just a matter that I wanted to tell you. There are various kinds of exercises: aerobic exercises, strengthening exercises, balancing exercises, and stretching exercises. Aerobic exercises, I think there are, I would restrict myself to the senior citizens. All these exercises have to be tailored according to the senior citizens as per their prevailing health and fitness. They cannot be asked, every senior citizen cannot be asked to do intense or vigorous exercises. I think walking a little briskly, again depending on his physical state, is one of the most convenient, cheap, and easily doable exercise. Cycling, swimming, if you are a young old, you can do swimming also, you can do cycling, you can involve yourself in gardening if the outdoor exercise permits, or you can have a bit of running. It all depends what kind of senior citizen you are. But I would like to say that uh, these should be done if you're doing something different. It should be under the medical supervision. Do not do by yourself any intense exercise. And same applies to various kinds of strengthening exercises. I'm not going to name these exercises. There are plenty of them. Same with the balancing exercises and stretching exercises. Aerobic exercises should be done daily. Walking for 30 minutes daily is okay. Even if you do it for 5 out of 7 days is okay. Strength exercises should be about done 2 to 3 times a week only. Same applies to balancing exercises. And of course, stretching exercise. Yoga is also one of the stretching exercises. And there are other exercises. So I think one can take a completely a separate session on these exercises. I'm not going to go into the detail. But the last point I would say, for the sake of convenience, those who are involved in these exercises, particularly like brisk walking, you just keep a very rough formula in mind that while you are doing walking, if you are aged 50 years and above, you make sure that your pulse does not jump to more than 120 per minute. And you can always see your pulse by, if you know how to count your pulse with your other hand, it's okay. If you don't know, you can apply a pulse oximeter and the pulse meter will give you the instant. But do it quickly. As soon as you are walking briskly, do not sit for some time before you apply the oximeter. Then the pulse will immediately start coming down. So you apply the pulse oximeter immediately as soon as you are walking and you have gained your speed, the desired speed. Excuse me. So, if you are aged 50 or more, your pulse should not be more than 120 at the most. If you are aged 60 or more, your pulse should not jump beyond 110 per minute, 110 per minute while walking. If you are 70 or more, your pulse should not be more than 100 or 105 per minute. That thing you could remember yourself. And that is just a very rough formula, but it does not replace the medical supervision in any way. So that is about the physical exercises. Now I would move further for the next slide to speak some other issues also, and that is a issue about the physical activity. I would like to say that apart from the tailored exercises that I have just mentioned, is not a bad idea. Rather, it's a good idea that every senior citizen should involve himself in daily shows of activity, and he should be involved in household activities. These days many senior citizens are sitting at home, so at least they can help their spouses They can help in cooking, they can help in cutting their vegetable, they can lift the basket of clothes and shift to the washing machine. And if they have to do some grocery by reason of compulsion, they may go out themselves and bring the grocery, and by in that way they will be lifting some weight. So daily source of activity is also a kind of exercise, although it's not a tailored exercise. But senior citizens should not be sitting all the time. It has been shown beyond doubt now that lying and sitting for a long time shortens the life. So keep something doing in the form of some physical activity, plus, of course, whatever I have told regarding walking and other forms of tailored exercise. Next slide. Now, brain health. I am a firm believer that you may look after your body's health quite intensely. But if you are not looking after your brain's health, you will not be doing a job fulfilled. Brain health is as important, if not important, than the body's health. Brain is a part of the body, of course, I admit, but brain requires some special effort. If you don't use it, you are going to lose it. And brain activities can also be indoor and outdoor, again, depending on your own circumstances. And there are many brain activities. I cannot enlist all those brain health activities, but I have just tried to apply my mind and put them in alphabetical manner. Accomplish new tasks. Involve yourself in new tasks so that your brain stresses out. Reading of some new matter, or learning some musical instruments. Befriend your grandchildren. When you befriend your grandchildren, you can involve them in all kinds of indoor games, or you can even gossip, you can storytelling them. So this is all going to be useful. Or you can have indoor chess. If you have a companion to play chess, you can use carom, you can involve in playing cards and many other indoor games. And remember that try to use both dominant and non-dominant hand, because our left side of brain controls our dominant hand, that is the right hand, and our right side of brain, our left side of brain, no, left side of brain will control the left hand, which we normally don't use, and the left side of brain will control the right hand, which we normally use. So if you use both the hands, then both the brains will be stimulated. And for ladies, knitting is something, because they are employing both the hands in knitting, so that will be useful. Otherwise, if you have a habit, you start even now. If you can start doing some work with the left hand also, at least open the door with the left hand, or do some other thing with the left hand. So your left hand is also be employed in use, and therefore right brain is also being stimulated. Then you explore the internet. Internet exploration is very important. You are, by using computer and surfing the internet, changing the windows, accessing all kinds of information, you are trading in uncharted waters, and therefore your brain will be stimulated. But do not get addicted to it. Addiction to internet is also bad. Not like young people, some young children and school-going children, they get addicted whole night in their room. They are addicted to this, and then they start complaining of pains in the neck and pain in the back and all kinds of problem in sleeplessness. That is not the thing that I am trying to advocate. But you must explore the internet and use the computer. And these days it's the era of digital health, it's the era of digitalization. So I think it becomes a need also rather than luxury. Then fun with puzzles and crosswords. Gardening, not only just gardening for physical activity, but plan a garden. When you plan a garden, you may arrange the gamlas in a particular manner, you may arrange the kyarians in a particular manner. So that will employ your brain, thinking brain. And then healthy humor and jokes. And some people like to imbibe a new language. A new language learning is a fun sometimes. So these are some of the brain stimulating activities. If I could have the next slide after this. Now, this is the next section, psychosocial and spiritual health. You would not be surprised. You should be that psychosocial and spiritual health also boosts our immunity. Or, of course, everybody knows that it reduces the stress, but It is also mitigating a various kinds of diseases, and it also improves the sleep. Now, how do we protect and promote our psychosocial and spiritual health? First is by socializing. We should keep socializing. We should not be introvert. We keep ourselves connected with friends, attend functions, we undertake some hobby, we volunteer for some good cause, and we can do all this both by face to face and even by virtual interaction. People have been using ceremonies, marriages, birthday parties through virtual interaction these days. As we know, they are talking to their friends and they are attending all kinds of functions virtually. But as the corona goes away, you can restart connecting with friends physically. And physical connection, of course, will always be a welcome step as soon as it is possible for us. Then next is spiritualizing. Spiritualizing is by yoga. And I think spiritualizing has a special place in senior citizens' health. Young people may not have enough time. They are undergoing a struggle of life. Many times they have stresses and strain, but it is not the case with senior citizens who have at least plenty of time available. And they know that they have a brevity of life staring at them. So they have a little bit of urgency. And if they do spiritualization by doing yoga, by pranayama, by meditation, by simple praying, and by spirituality, I do not mean religion by anything. But if they pray according to their own faith, it is also spirituality. And if the circumstances permit, they can again start going for pilgrimaging. They try to always. I think senior citizens try to have ethical living, and they believe they should start. They already believe, but they have a chance at this age, and they do actually practice in strengthening their sometimes health friendly attitudes and traits like forgiveness, optimism, repentance, gratitude, introspection, that is self introspection, venerating the great people, and showing empathy for the needy. So it is a kind of finding a purpose in life, and it is also somewhat creating an enduring alliance with the people around you. And I think these behaviors are self-satisfying in old age. And I think my senior citizen friends would agree with me that they are self-satisfying health attitudes which ultimately lead to happiness and health in old age. And I have some information to share with you that by improving the mental health, they indirectly or directly also improve the physical health. They are good for diabetes, they are good for dementia, they are good for stroke, they are good for cancer, they are good for heart attack. Ultimately, such people will not smoke, such people will not take alcohol. So ultimately, they will have a physical health benefit also. Next is music listening of your choice, whatever like to you have music. I'm not asking every senior citizen to only listen devotional music and bhajans. This is up to them. Who some people like just a year songs of our old music singers, and this certainly lessens anxiety, fatigue, and pain, improves mood, attention, and sleep. And music is known to stimulate both sides of brain again. And then group engaging. If you have time, when you are out, able to go out, then you can even engage in physical and mental exercises jointly with your friends and your colleagues. You must have seen in park, they walk together, they gossip together, they sit together, and they reminisce, they talk about the past and their memories, happy memories and nostalgic memories in group. And that is even more useful for the health. Next slide, please. Now, this is another thing. I'm talking of this idea because I have come across some senior citizens, although they do not often come forward. Many senior citizens have difficulty in drifting to sleep in the night. And if they get a sleep in the middle of the night, if they have to go to bathroom and they get up, then they have difficulty in falling asleep again. And what is the result? The result is next day they are not able to work properly. They're fatigued, they are irritable, and their mood is not so good the next day. Their efficiency also goes down. So fulfilling the sleep is also important. And I think for last 10, 20 years, it has been increasingly recognized that a satisfying full sleep is also very important as an immune booster, and it averts many diseases. Those who do not sleep well for years together, they may fall victim to dementia, stroke, heart disease, hypertension, and so on. So, fulfilling sleep is important. But being a doctor myself, I can tell you that there is no treatment, easy, ready made treatment for such problems. And that's why senior citizens are not coming forward. What if you go to a doctor, what he will do, he will only give you a tranquilizer or a sleep promoting drug, which is not the answer. I personally don't like that senior citizens should keep taking these drugs for years together. They have their own disadvantage, they are habit forming. So fulfilling the sleep is important. So I think very simple steps are well-known steps that I think many people already employ. They should not have any daytime naps. They should go to bed after at least after 1 to 2 hours after dinner, not before that. Their room where they are sleeping should be free from noise, free from bright light, and they should all avoid television, mobile phones, computer screens, coffee, tea, alcohol, or excess water drinking before sleep. These are the usual things that everybody knows. The second is there are many kinds of breathing exercises. Uh, pranayama and meditation I've already told you, but if you are not getting sleep in the night, what to do at that time? Deep abdominal breathing exercises is recommended. So when you do deep abdominal breathing exercises in the night and you do it for 5 to 10 minutes, or even sometimes you may do for 15 minutes, you start yawning. And when you start yawning, you will be surprised that you are drifted away to sleep and you get a good sleep. So this is one of the exercises. There are many other exercises, but I have not much time at this time to explain how these exercises are doing. But you can always consult doctors, you can consult the other healthcare providers, you can go through the websites and all that, and you will be wiser. And then, of course, I've already talked about the spiritual exercises. This is about the fulfilling of sleep. Next slide, please. Now I've moved to another important dimension to protect the senior citizens' health. We talk about and we are very much aware about the outdoor pollution. And I think everybody knows that the major cities of India and the major cities of many other countries where there is a lot of population and traffic, the population is the pollution, outdoor pollution is killing a large number of people because of respiratory problems, because of asthma, and even indirectly they are contributing to heart disease and blood pressure and dementia. All has been described. So we can avoid, at least senior citizens are avoiding, they are not going out. And I have talked to many senior citizen friends, and they have told me that during last 10 months or 1 year since when they have hardly gone out, they have experienced that they are no longer getting any episodes of running of the nose or dry cough or common cold or sneezing and all that. But when they were going out before, either for some purpose to shopping or for eating outside in the restaurant or attending functions in their friends' families, but for any pretext, when they were frequently going out without any restriction, they were getting these kinds of symptoms at least 3-4 times a year. But now, this last 1 year, they are not getting it. So what is the reason? The reason is that they are not exposed to the outdoor pollution. So outdoor pollution decidedly is an important impediment to a good health of everyone, including senior citizens, children, and even adults. But adults have to go out, children have to go to the school. So I'm not talking of that because that is not, to some extent, that's not within our reach. We can only wear the mask. We can only do those kinds of things that the government is advising very rightly from time to time. But I am going to talk about the indoor pollution. I think not many people identify that the indoor pollution is also a good source of bad health. And indoor pollution is due to many things. I mean, there's a lot of dust on the furniture. You may be doing dusting and the dust particles are hanging in the air. You may not be doing dusting, but somebody just strips the dust for some reason and the dust particles again hang. Then there may be furniture polish. There may be some people are doing wood polishing in the house. The gas and the things that smoke is coming when you are cooking. So there are all, and then people are using sprays, perfumes and all kinds of things. So there are a lot of sources of indoor pollution also, but we don't identify that. And there is a syndrome called sick building syndrome. Now, people who are in the buildings inside, either in their houses, the houses may be big or may not be so big, or they are at the workplace where they are in the building, large building where the offices are located. But if they are spending a lot of hours, and in the case of senior citizens these days, they are spending all the 24 hours inside the building, inside the house, so they can get certain symptoms, and these symptoms could be headache or sore eyes or sore throat, fatigue, body pains. And the reason for these symptoms is, one of the major reasons is poor air quality in the house. So that is called sick building syndrome. So that sick building syndrome has to be tackled somehow. And one of the method is to have proper ventilation. Now, in winter months, in a city like Delhi, you cannot open windows. But wherever one can open windows, wherever one can allow the outside air to come in, it will be useful. So even WHO says that ventilation is an important point for senior citizens' health to fight. It's also a fighter for indoor pollution. Then you must have heard there are air purifiers available in the market, and to which extracts oxygen out of the air, and people are using them. I do not know to what extent they are useful, but there are plenty of them available, and people have been buying also. Then those senior citizens who want to be more cautious, or they are having comorbidities, they should keep some oxygen cylinder inside, or there are some oxygen making machines, oxygen generating machines, which extract oxygen out of air. Oxygen cylinder has a life. I think the oxygen will run out after a few hours, but oxygen machines do not have life. The oxygen keeps on getting generated for hours and hours, and you can put the catheter in the nostril and you can have oxygen. But this only applies to people who are sick and before they need a hospitalization. So these are some of the methods how you can drive a high quality air within your house. Then last point about fighting indoor pollution, about plants. There are some plants, anti-pollution plant. You already know that plants or greenery in the city is something which everybody knows and aware. Even in Delhi, I find that the metro train pillars, they are covered with green plants. All the pillars, many pillars are covered with a green plant. And you also find that in buildings, in the long corridors of buildings where the people are working, there are rows of gamlas with lot of different kinds of potted plants. So greenery is important. So can we do something about the indoor pollution with the anti-pollution plants? Can I have the next slide? Now this is one plant, Erica palm plant. It is also called living room plant. This plant has an ability to convert the carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and formaldehyde and absorb these bad gases and emit oxygen. And if it is kept in the living room, it will help in fighting indoor pollution. But the leaves have to be cleaned daily, and in 3 to 4 months' time, this plant has to be exposed to sunlight. But I think many people still don't like to keep the plants in the living room or in the bedroom because of unhygienic condition they can cause and because of insects. But at least they can be kept in the veranda or they can be kept in the balcony in the hope that they would fight to some extent, indoor pollution. The next plant, next slide, please. After this, the Areca palm, the other plant is called mother-in-law tongue plant. It is also called bedroom plant or snake plant. This is also, although it is called bedroom plant, but this is also recommended to be put in the living room. Again, the same condition that people don't like to keep the plants inside the house, so they can keep little outside in the veranda or balcony. And this particular plant has a special property that this works in the night also. Even in the night, it emits oxygen and absorbs carbon dioxide. Next slide. This is the well-known money plant. Although it may not bring the money to the house, but it will save the money because it will keep your health better. So this is also an anti-pollution plant. There are many other plants which are known. There are about, I think, 12 to 15 more plants. But I have talked about these three plants for the reason that these three plants were the subject of investigation for their anti-pollution value by Kanpur University in 2019. So I thought I will bring it to your kind notice about the importance of these plants. To what extent they would be useful is anybody's guess, but it is a piece of information I wanted to share. Next slide, please. Now, this is a hot topic these days about the vaccination. I'm no expert on vaccination. I'm an ordinary physician. I am one of the candidates myself waiting for vaccination. And everybody should remember that he has to take COVID vaccination. And unless the large population of takes the COVID vaccination, it will not be useful for the rest of the population. So it is better to have a very wide coverage of vaccination for the population at large. And while you keep remembering COVID vaccination daily these days, do not forget flu and pneumonia vaccine for senior citizens especially. Because senior citizens, as you know, they are also very vulnerable to get pneumonia due to flu and pneumonia, due to flu and pneumococcus organism. So every year it is recommended, every year they are get this pneumonia and flu vaccine. In America, it is mandatory after the age of 65. In India, so far not mandatory, but the awareness is being created for even flu and pneumonia vaccine. And I think if somebody doesn't remember, but if you are in the habit of celebrating your birthday every year and by undergoing a health checkup and visiting a doctor will remind you that have you taken a flu and pneumonia vaccine, and he will also tell you what is the time of the year when you should take each year this flu vaccine. Of course, pneumonia vaccine need not be taken every year. It is to be taken either once in lifetime or at least once in 5 years. Your doctor will tell you. But coming back to the COVID vaccine, there are many types of COVID vaccines available. These days, all the COVID vaccines that are available are safe and healthy. There is nothing to fear about it. There's so much of information about the safety of vaccine. They have been out and they have been already loaded in the truck. And I find myself very fortunate to be talking about the vaccine on 16th of January when in our country the vaccination drive has started. So this is a fortuitous development for me personally. But there are two vaccines I would like to name. One is Covaxin and other is the Covishield. Covishield from Serum Institute and Covaxin from Bharat Biotech. These are the two Indian vaccines. But there are other vaccines also which are applying for their place in India. But of course, they are not at this time available for us in India. One is the Pfizer vaccine, the fourth is Moderna vaccine, and fifth is Sputnik vaccine. Sputnik vaccine is a Russian vaccine. The Pfizer and Moderna are the vaccine from USA. They are messenger RNA vaccines, but I would not go into the details about that. But remember our Indian vaccines, which have already rolled out. So this is about the vaccination. And I think the next may be my last but one slide. Next slide, please. So in the end, whether corona or no corona, we remember healthy aging commandments. And I often show this slide to my audience, whether they agree with me or not agree with me. But these are the not 5, they are 7 S principles. Why I call S? Because they all start with the letter S, although they are in Hindi, and they stand in good stead for promoting and protecting the health of senior citizens. One is Satvikta, Shramta, Sakriyata, Samparkta, Satarkta, Shayanta, Sadacharita. Satvikta, food, good food. Cleanliness, no vices of addiction. Shramta, physical work, exercise and yoga. Sakrita, remain involvement with life. Keep doing something. Samparta, keep interacting socially. Sadartha, be prudent and reasonable and have reasons to decide for anything. Do not leave the reasons to anybody else in the family unless you are unable. So don't think that you are now old, you cannot think, you cannot reason out. So you be alert and reason out. That will also be good for your mental health. Shayanta, Shayan means sleep. So you have to fulfill your sleep, that is important. And Sadacharita, I have dealt at length finding a purpose in life, and all spirituality traits that I have talked about. So these are the 7 healthy aging commandments. They apply to everyone, but they apply particularly to elder citizens. But it doesn't mean that you only begin them when you are old enough. Although it should be a work of lifetime. There is no shortcut to healthy, happy old age. It is a work of lifetime. But the earlier begun, the better it is. But it is never late to begin. If somebody has not started even after the age of 70, he can begin even now. He will reap the fruit for all this even now. And last slide is, I think, about the next slide, please. Last slide is not simply a thank you slide, but it is a slide to remind you that the population of elderly people is burgeoning. We are going to have tsunami of elderly citizens in times to come. By 2050, we will have 325 million elderly senior citizens in our country. 20% of the population will have gray hair, and it will be very difficult to look after them if all are sick and all are not fit. So we have to prepare ourselves both as individuals as well as with the help of authorities to protect our health and remain productive as long as possible. Just having an umbrella is not enough to protect yourself from the tsunami. Thank you very much.